So is the name of the shark Jaws? I always love that idea. He's like, "Hi, I'm Jaws. Look out, everyone, it's Jaws."
No, it's Waj. Waj, Jaws backwards. No, wait, that'd be Swaj.
Swag.
That sounds horrible.
It does.
Swag.
Hello, you are listening to Off Radar, It's a Movie podcast. I'm James Smith, a professional film and video editor.
I'm James Eatock, a freelance writer and illustrator specialising in 1980s cartoons.
And I'm Neil Brock, aka Nige, the man with two names, former film journalist and currently working in the games industry.
Each week, one of us picks a movie that all three of us either haven't seen in many years or in some cases haven't seen at all.
We each watch the chosen movie, return to the microphone and let you all know exactly what we thought of it.
I'd never really had any interest in watching it and I was proved absolutely right.
I think it's amazing. I really, really love this film.
The film's still a pile of steaming dog shit.
If you fancy joining in and suggesting a movie for us to watch, why not tweet us at Offradar Podcast
or email us on offradarpod@gmail.com.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, share, and by all means, leave a review.
For now, strap in, turn the volume up, and let's go Off Radar. Hello.
All right.
We're in. Welcome back to Off Radar. I'm James Smith, and with me today, and as always, is James Eatock.
Hello.
And Neil Brock.
Nigel.
Nigel. Neil.
Who we call Nigel. Not Nigel. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are discussing a film called Jaws. You might have heard of it. It came out 50 years ago.
That's
in 1975,
nuts.
and this year is its 50-year anniversary, hence why I recommended that we do this film for this very podcast. Plus, I feel like it's one of those films that we should do, and also we haven't done many 70s films for a little while.
No.
Or older films, in fact. Like, we've done a fair few 80s, 90s and later, but we're not going back. So, yeah, I'm not going to ask you, have you seen this before? But I'm going to ask you when you first saw it, because I know that you guys have seen this.
Yeah, I remember seeing it when I was very young, actually. I can't remember exactly how young, but it would have been on terrestrial TV, and I've got a feeling it was on like ITV or something like that. And like probably everyone else who watched it probably a little bit too young, it scared the crap out of me to the extent where it's like, oh my God, don't go in the water, that kind of thing.
Wow.
But yeah, I was from a small village, countrified in the middle of England, Oxfordshire. So it's not that often that I would get down to the beach or anything like that. We didn't go on many holidays when I was growing up. But I remember not long after seeing it, going on holiday with my parents to like Bournemouth and being like, oh my God, the shark's right there, kind of thing. So,
I think you're like, oh my God, Bournemouth.
well, that as well, obviously. But yeah, and then sort of in the preceding years, I watched it sort of at random times. I think I had it on VHS and I probably had it on DVD. And I remember going to the Rivoli, or however you pronounce it, ballroom in... it's like Crofton Park, so near Brockley, a part of London,
Right.
which is not named after me. And remember seeing it in this like beautiful ballroom on a big screen kind of there as well.
Cool.
So I've seen it quite a few times over the years. So yeah, interested to hear where you guys got your first exposure to big old Jaws.
Big old Jaws. I think I was the same as Nige. I remember seeing it very, like, quite young. Not stupidly young, but very, like, definitely in the 80s on TV. I feel like it was on BBC though, Nige. I'm going to say that.
May well have been.
My experience felt uninterrupted. But yeah, I remember like seeing it as a kid. It didn't, the narrative you often hear is that Jaws made people of all ages afraid to go in the water.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't for me. I remember like thinking it's a, don't get me wrong, terrifying film, which we'll get into. The thing that scared me the most in the water were jellyfish. They freaked me out. Like I always got scared of going in the water and being stung by a jellyfish, just because like you'd hear like horror stories and just be like, oh god, they're so kind of.
You're also quite scared of desserts as well, aren't you?
Yeah. It's like,
the jelly.
I don't trust the way it moves. Yeah, like
Angel Delight, no.
No, Angel Delight's got consistency, but but like, imagine if Jaws was a jellyfish movie. I think that'd be a interesting.
That would be more. Well, it would, yeah, a more scary version.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Go on, Smith. What about you?
Similar to you guys. I think people of a certain age probably kind of saw it at this time. So yeah, I would have been. And again, it was on TV. I was probably. It felt like I was too young, but I wasn't really, I guess. But yeah, it was. I was scared to get in the bath. You know, it was
really.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, wow, man. But I probably saw it just that little bit too young, really. I think one of the reasons it was on TV, like it was a PG, which is fascinating that Jaws was a PG. When you look at it going back, it's quite violent. And I think one of the reasons was that the 12 rating in this country, and I think it was PG-13 in the US, hadn't been brought in yet. So, which is, I imagine, for later theatrical releases and stuff, it probably would have got, or had it would have got back then. But in 75, when it first came out, yeah.
I remember, like, when we were growing up and films came on TV, they were very often cut for TV as well.
The TV versions, yeah.
Because I definitely recall it being on, like, during the daytime. So there's certainly a scene when a couple of jump scares, shall we say, towards the end of the film. Those are bits that I'm almost certain would have been quite heavily cut. But yeah, it doesn't change the fact that it's the menace more than necessarily the actual moments of violence or fear or whatever you want to call it. And even that intro, which is just so iconic, and the music and everything else. But we will get on to all
we
this.
Will. So yeah, first off, it is worth pointing out that this was based on a book which came out a year earlier, 1974, by Peter Benchley. I think it's also worth pointing out, rather interestingly, that the artwork from the book was then used in the movie as the movie poster.
Adapted, but yeah.
Adapted, but yeah.
Same,
but if you look at the
person swimming across and the shark underneath, that kind of classic. So,
if you look at it, though, it's it's pretty close. And also, it's interesting
like
that
thumb's going to attack someone. I'll be honest. Looking at it right now, but anyway, sorry.
It's also interesting that he was heavily involved in the screenplay, Peter Benchley, who wrote the book, and Carl Gottlieb, who I imagine had more of the influence on adapting the screenplay, because obviously Benchley was the kind of novel writer.
Well, I don't know how much we want to get into this now, but I mean, I've read the book. I read the book
really?
when I was probably in my late teens. I remember going on a holiday to France with the Goods, some of whom have requested films for this podcast. My good friend Mark recommended Sorry to Bother You, I believe. And yeah, I remember going on holiday, reading it, and just like being really sort of caught up in the story. But there's so much from the book that isn't in the film. And apparently, sort of Peter Benchley was involved, as you mentioned, with the screenplay, and he was quite often on set, to the point where I think they almost had to sort of get him off the set because there was so much from the book that was cut, and he was like, "No, this is really important. You've got to have this bit." Because there's bits basically where the town is basically run by the mafia. There's
oh my god,
like the sort of detective's wife is having an affair. She's really dissatisfied. There's criminals that come over to the actual empty island during the sort of tourist season. So there's this whole like, I don't know, I suppose like secondary stories and things that are going on. Subplots is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, there's a bunch of subplots that basically aren't included and kind of give the characters maybe a bit more character, but to the point where a lot of the sort of critical response to the book was that there were just no likable characters. And I think watching the film, there's some unlikable characters, there's some very memorable characters, and there's some, certainly Chief Brodie is a very likable character in this film.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've not read the book. I think, it's weird because when you've seen the film so many times, it's just, I just think, oh, why would I read the book? But yeah, maybe I will.
It is different.
Is it good?
And, I mean, I enjoyed it. Like, and it was sort of the perfect holiday book. Like, we were out, as I said, in France. You had the sun. We were sat by the pool. That sort of perfect film.
Terrifying.
Perfect book.
Yeah, sounds
read,
like it.
Oh my God.
And directed by Steven Spielberg. Worth pointing out.
Stephen who?
Yeah, you may have heard of him, Steven Spielberg. Worth pointing out, we've done a Steven Spielberg chat about his whole career, where we look at his whole career in films. But we've also done Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where we have a good old look at those films. So yeah, we're not a stranger to this fella. But it is, again, worth pointing out that at this point he was relatively unknown, and it was just off the back of Duel, which we mentioned, I think, in our Spielberg chat. Which I think last time we discussed Duel, I hadn't actually seen it, and based on kind of some of the conversation that you guys had, I think it was when we were doing like the 80s movies, perhaps, I went off and watched it, and yeah, that I can see very similar trends between Duel and Jaws. So it's quite interesting.
Not to spoil a future review, but I love Duel.
Yeah, and it's a TV movie, wasn't it, originally? I think.
Was.
Yeah. So good.
By the way, I watched a documentary in the lead up to this, which I told you guys after I watched Jaws, which I'd highly recommend everyone go and check out, called Jaws at 50, I think, which is a Disney produced one. But it's got interviews with pretty much everybody and loads of, I don't know, like A-list directors and like cast and stuff. But it's really well done, really well made. A lot of stuff I didn't know, a lot of stuff you will know. But anyway, one of the things on this documentary, Spielberg said that when he got it, he felt when he read the script, like Jaws was like a sequel to Duel, which was one of the reasons that he chose to take this film.
But it is interesting as well, and this is something I didn't realise until I just checked a second ago. Between Duel and Jaws, there was the Sugarland Express, which was a film that Spielberg directed with Goldie Hawn and Etok's very favourite William Atherton from Ghostbusters, who played Peck.
Oh wow, really?
Walter Peck. I've never seen this one.
No, I've never seen it.
I've never even heard of it.
I'm just thinking now, I don't think we actually mentioned it at all during
I don't think
our Spielberg podcast. So, and it's one that I'm quite keen to go away and watch. It's basically about, they're like it's a crime comedy drama, as it's described, where their husband and wife take a police officer hostage and drive across the country, basically, or drive across Texas. But yeah, I've not seen it, to do with like a child in foster care, and yeah, but it's again, it's an early 70s Goldie Hawn film, so it'd be quite interesting to watch. But again, that seemed quite a departure. That was his first official theatrical release. But it sounds like he was already signed up for Jaws quite early off the back of potentially Duel. I don't know. So yeah, but lo and behold, here we are with Jaws in 1975.
Absolutely. And starring, as you already said, you said Brodie, the character played by Roy Scheider, or Schneider, as some people like to say. Robert Shaw as Quint.
Arr!
Yarr.
Sure. No.
Sure. It's a kind of mixed up accent.
Sure.
Richard Dreyfuss.
Dickie Dreyfuss.
Hooper, and then Lorraine Gary as Ellen Brodie.
I suppose you've got the mayor as well, don't you? Like Murray Hamilton.
Yeah, he's been in a few things, right?
He's been in Jaws 2.
Yeah.
He's in Jaws 1, Jaws 2. Yeah. He's probably been in loads of things. I bet he's like one of those actors that he's the mayor, he's the district attorney, he's like that guy that plays authoritarian roles. I can see. Because I'm guessing
one of the things that came up in this documentary, and sorry if I'm treading on your trivia, Nige.
No, there's more than enough trivia to go around with Jaws.
We can share it out.
Bait into the sea.
But pretty much everybody on this film, apart from those 4 or 5, are real people from the place where they shot Jaws.
Oh right, wow.
So even the couple that go in right at the beginning, which we'll get to in a second, down to the mum who slaps Brodie and stuff like that, they're all just people that live nearby, and they got these people in to
be
make authentic.
Yeah.
But
which is quite a risk to have non-actors, especially in some of them are in speaking roles, especially like you mentioned, the mother who gives Brodie a girl slap. She kind of says, "I heard you knew there were sharks, you didn't close the beach," or whatever she says.
Yeah,
it's just that. But yeah, no, it is a risk. It's a massive risk because there's quite a few, but you wouldn't know. So between Spielberg and
knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he obviously managed to get the best performances out of those kind of supporting cast, even if they're in it very briefly. And it is worth pointing out that it's a real place as well where they shot it, which is in, where is it?
That is so weird. It's a real place. It's not.
Well, it's not a tank in a studio.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a big set.
Would do nowadays is have a load of exteriors and then a green screen and then a tank in a studio. It was,
and I think Spielberg ended up regretting that choice, didn't he? The fact that so much of it was shot in the high seas, shall we say, as opposed to using a tank, because he was a lot more at risk of the elements, which we will go into.
Absolutely. So yeah, I recommended this. So I've written a synopsis.
Oh.
And here we go. Welcome to Amity Beach, where the sea is blue, the sand is golden, and there is definitely not a 25-foot man-eating shark lurking in the water. Chief Brodie hears of a woman's remains washed up on shore and plans to shut down the beach. However, the mayor insists on keeping it open. Further attacks shake the local community, and Brodie places a $3,000 bounty to kill the shark. He meets Quint, a local fisherman, and Hooper, an oceanographer with a fascination for sharks. The three men head out to the open sea to finally put an end to the bloodshed and kill the giant man-killer. But who is hunting who?
There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill. A mindless, eating machine. It will attack and devour anything. It is as if God created the devil and gave him jaws. From the best-selling novel, Jaws. Rated PG. Maybe too intense for younger children.
Start of this film, there is no other way to start. I mean, actually, the credits of this film is a point of view shot, and it's got the credits, and you see the camera going through the water like a shark. But we have to start with the music, which Nige did a very good impression of earlier on.
He did a great impression.
Nigel.
There you go, just like there.
And it is, I mean, it's been talked about so many times over the years, but it is that simplicity of this 2 bars that we've all had a go of playing on the piano.
Well, the weird thing about it is it's such a simple theme, and yet it's like I always talk about things that transcend movies. This is like something that's a part of pop culture, and people will use it, probably not always knowing what it's from, just like the idea of a threat, not necessarily just always Jaws. And it's oh, go on, Nige.
Well, I was just going to say, like, this is trivia I didn't even need to look up. I knew this anyway. Like, John Williams, like, just to start with, John Williams, one of the most famous composers ever, created this theme for Spielberg, and when he first played it to him on the piano, it was just like da da. Spielberg thought he was joking. I was just like, what? I was like, no, that can't be it, and kind of explained. And obviously, as he went on, he kind of realised the impact of the simplicity. And like you say, that the building tension you can have with just those 2 notes. Obviously, there's a wonderful orchestral score that builds up behind it. But even so, just that simplicity. And, wow.
It's the way it kind of gets faster as well. It starts
I think it's what adds to the... It's like one of those pieces of music that is so perfectly a part of the movie. Do you know what I mean? In the sense of the shark is very, mysterious and foreboding. So is the music. It's like, oh wow, there's a real kind of uneasiness, an unknowing to the music.
Absolutely. But we set up the film with this, and I think actually it's worth, we won't talk about every scene in this film because you'll know the scenes, but this first scene is one of the most iconic scenes from the film, where you get the 2 people who go skinny dipping.
Well, I kind of forget though, like on the beach, like playing guitar, smoking weed,
looking at their iPhones. They're all
it's just 70s. Yeah,
it reminds me of the scene in Karate Kid when they're on the beach, listening to the music and stuff like that, like the classic Californian almost fires on the beach, like kids hanging out kind of thing. But what I kind of forgot was how wasted the guy is. I mean, they're both pretty wasted, but he sort of chases after her, doesn't he? And he ends up
he just falls
his clothes off and passes out on the beach. And I'd forgotten that bit. It was a nice little bit to revisit.
performance of this woman who was not an actor. When she's getting like, you see one of the shots which is yank. Incredible is the point of view shot of her swimming, which obviously you've kind of seen. But that shot is incredible. But then you're right. You get the yank and it's like, and then those kind of blood curdling screams as she's being yanked about. It's just so well done.
Just on that point, you mentioned like the blood curdling screams, and again, I don't know how true this is, but this film was released not that long after like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974, and that film was, I think, one of the things I sort of noticed most about when I first watched that was the amount of screams, the blood curdling screams. It's just constant. And I wonder if there was an element of Spielberg. I mean, maybe it was shot after it, maybe you hadn't even seen it, but where there was an element of just kind of having that scream and being so impactful as part of that opening scene to sort of heighten the tension, heighten the fear, heighten this idea that, again, like almost connecting it with the horror of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because I think we mentioned in one of our recent pods about kind of horror films that have sort of done well at the Oscars and things like that, and this was sort of classified as a horror film at the time. I mean, it's not a complete horror film. There's so much to it. It's got action. It's known as kind of one of the first ever blockbusters and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that kind of, it really helped set that scene alongside the music, the sort of the cinematography, the lighting is like perfect for this as well at night and everything else. So yeah,
because I know not to rag on like modern films, but if this was a modern film with the opening shot, it'd be so overly produced and glossy and slick and like so. It would be lit, like not like it's daytime, but overly lit for night. The fact that you can't really make out what it's probably like. It feels like it's like late in the,
like
I don't know, like the
light, dusky.
Yeah, it's dusky. That's what I was going for.
And they'd sexualise it as well. And this scene isn't really sexualised, despite the fact she's skinny dipping and she's
not at
an
all.
attractive woman. And even the guy Chase, he's a good-looking guy. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it just feels like this could never be done this raw again, because it would just feel too polished. And I think that's why it works so well. It's just. There's that, it just feels very. I think that it sounds silly because it's a film, but the thing about the scene, it just feels real. It doesn't feel over dramatized. It doesn't feel overplayed. It doesn't feel comic booky. It feels just real. It's like, oh yeah, this is what would happen if you were bitten by a shark and dragged underwater. Just like terrifying.
Like, again, I'm going to reference this doc a lot in this podcast, but one of the things that does make this real is the way that the way she's dragged is like they basically had two guys on separate harnesses pulling her in the sea, so she's actually being like kind of dragged across like thrust away, and I think she got like whiplash and stuff. It was like pretty like physical, that kind of thing that she had to go through for that. And it looks like you say it looks real, but it kind of is real, really, which is kind of mad because you probably wouldn't be allowed to now. But yeah, I mean, it is an iconic scene. It's a great scene. It sets up the film really well without, I don't know, it just, you're just straight in the water. But we meet Brodie very early on, and I think his character is really interesting because he is the most likable character in this film, and we see kind of glimpses of that throughout the film, but you can see that he really cares in this film, like the way he kind of interacts with his son a bit later on.
Well, I think that's why they present him as a family man straight from the get-go. It's sort of like you could start with him at the beach, like with his kind of office, like what do you call it, assistant officer, but instead they start off with this scene which is kind of unnecessary, but it's him in his home, like family home. So he's a family man, he's got a kid, he's got a wife,
and that's a very Spielberg thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Kind of centers most of his films around a family.
What I really love about kind of the opening scenes with Brodie is like he goes into the sort of police station. It's like this little almost like provincial police station. There's barely any people that work there. It's like him with like his deputy or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, he's got one deputy.
Plus the receptionist who works there as well. And all the people are kind of coming up to him like, oh, some kids kicked over my paint cans.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a dog that barks during the night. And it's the kind of place where that is like the height of what the police are needed for. There's really like a criminal underbelly. There's not really crime. And Brodie is, I think he's originally from like New York or something like that, and kind of moved to the sticks to get away from that kind of stuff. And he is very much like a land-based mammal. Like, he does not like the ocean. He's scared.
Dare I say, his story is a bit of a fish out of water story. Right?
I see what you've done.
But it's true.
He is scared of the water,
Yeah.
and there's a scene later on where everyone's kind of running into the ocean to get people out, and he's scared of it. So they kind of set up his character very quickly to be. He's competent, but like is he like completely out of his depth? Is he in this kind of town, in this situation, a family guy who's suddenly thrust into this incredible situation? Because even when he's on the phone hearing, oh, there's been an accident, you need to come down to the beach, his receptionist is just like, oh, blah, 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 just general day-to-day nonsense. And I would say it's a really great introduction to him. I'd say
when he first heads to the beach, and they discover that body, that's like one of those moments where it's just like, oh yeah, Spielberg can direct like really well. I know this is in the 70s and stuff, and like these days it's this would be commonplace, but just that initial shot where the whistle goes off and he's with the
whistle is great, isn't it?
Yeah, he goes running up with the guy, and you don't see what is happening initially, and then in the foreground the officer, like his assistant, his deputy, that's the best word, his deputy kind of just drops to the floor in front of the camera, and you get this great like composition shot of him in the foreground just looking absolutely distraught, like dishevelled, just like, oh god, and them in the background kind of seeing something out of shot, and we never really see it, we never get a good look, we just get glimpses, but it's really like as a director, Spielberg just establishing raw emotion with simple shots and not going like, again, I'm not going to do this throughout, but it's like modern film, you'd see the body all mangled and stuff, they'd show it, and like, but we just get glimpses, we get like a hand or something.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, they used like a prop arm originally for that shot, and it just looks so fake. They just ended up like burying a female crew member, having her arm like stuck out from the sand. Really? It's almost like, oh, gone on a holiday and my children have buried me, kind of.
Well, I mean, like, because when you see it, it does look, I mean, it looks real, as simple as that. I don't think, I think sometimes like prop stuff looks proppy.
Well, the fact that it's got the crabs on it as well.
Yeah, the crabs was always like really creepy. It's just like, oh. I do love, like Nige talked about them, the police office, like when he goes back to his very kind of small town police office, and he's on the typewriter, and I love that shot where you see the type, and it just says cause of death, shark attack, and it's like, oh, here we go, because it's like, so it's such a great little moment. It's like, we know what it probably actually.
Well, yeah, we know what it was. We kind of saw it.
In fairness, you don't really know. Obviously, the poster tells you everything you need to know, etc., etc. But when you think about the movie, you've got a point of view shot of like the shark. Water. You've got the attack. So it's like, well, something's grabbed her, and like, I think I don't know. You've got to understand. I think we all have to understand, and I think everyone has to appreciate. Prior to Jaws, I don't think it was like, oh, something dangerous in the water, shark attack.
It's probably more like, it's giant squid, like
jellyfish
from the Black
It's the jellyfish, Nige. I tell you, it's the jellyfish.
It's Angel Delight.
They're coming to get us. But I really think like there were probably some people going like, what happened to her? Like what was was it like an octopus or something? And then it's like,
it's true. You can't not think about it as a shark.
The poster gives it away, like the title Jaws. So you're like,
I was going to say, does Jaws actually come up on the screen before that happens?
It must do.
I think it does.
I agree, it must do, but.
But it's really, and then we're introduced, I think shortly after that, to one of my favourite characters in the movie, because he's a character that I think in most movies would not have a character arc, and yet he does, is the mayor, Mayor McCheese. I can't remember his name, but he's great in it.
He's really good actually, because he's got this constant grapple with Brodie and trying to close the beach and stuff, and that gives the filmmaker or the writer license to have more shark attacks, but not only that, we see that kind of conflict of as an audience member, you're like, oh god, he's got to shut the beach, but then Brodie's so conflicted about kind of releasing this information and having panic,
Well, yeah, they do have like a little meeting, don't they, with all the shop owners, and basically the mayor's there. So the mayor's name's Larry Vaughan, and he's obviously the spokesperson and kind of pushing that narrative onto Brodie, because again, Brodie's kind of seen as the new guy in town. He doesn't realise that basically they make, I think someone kind of shouts out, "Oh, I make more money in a day than I do in like a month," kind of thing, and when it's not the holiday season. So for them, it's not just a clear cut, "Oh, shut the beach, there's a shark." It's you have to do everything in your power to keep the beach open, and that's where that sort of sense of conflict comes from. And like you said, Smith, that's where that idea of they can kind of drag this out because they just can't easily close the beach.
Well, it's great in that sense, because if you look at if you said what's Jaws about, it's like, or if you said to someone what's Jaws about who hasn't really seen it, or maybe you hadn't seen it, oh, it's about like a shark that attacks people, and it's like, yeah, okay, but there's also
just don't go in the water, just close the beach.
Go in the water.
It's like a modern film where it's like, oh, why don't they just use their mobile phone and just
exactly,
there's a murderer after me. It's kind of like,
he's gonna get me. But the what I love is that conflict, because you can understand, you don't side with the mayor, but at the same time you understand his point of view, and everybody
it's like
who has a
one
business
shark
there.
Attack. Yes.
It's like you shut that beach, and is like the businesses, holidaymakers, everything goes down, and that has a massive knock-on effect. Even in 1 year, it could ruin the town. Because you think money comes in, it all builds up, it all goes back into the community and stuff, and you think, and that's what I love about the mayor's story. Obviously, later in the, I think a short while later in the film, you get his little moment. You're like, oh wow, but yeah, like so after that shark attack, and obviously like Nige said, they've had their meeting. We get, I think, is probably one of my favourite scenes in the film, because of obviously one of the greatest cinematic shots is when he's on the beach, like, and now he's aware of the shark attack, but people are in the water, holidaymakers.
That's the crazy thing, right? He's in on it now. He knows, and you see the Lilo going out there, which is again, it's an iconic scene. But the tension,
and the dog, the poor dog as well.
The dog. I forgot about the dog.
I forgot about the dog. But yeah.
Oh. Again, going back to Spielberg's directing, there's certain things in this. It's just like, God, like either he was the best thief filmmaker, but I think a lot of this was just him. Like there's one shot where Brodie's like sitting in his chair on the beach, and every time someone walks past the camera cuts to a closer shot of him, and it's so well. I've seen that used so many times I've seen it in animation, I've seen it in so many things, and it's such a simple piece of directing, but it just creates like that level of a little bit of tension. Like he's there, people are going by him, and every time someone goes past the camera and fills the frame, it cuts to the next shot. It's just beautiful.
And I think also, we talked about the music, but actually what's so brilliant about Jaws as well is in these moments there is no music, so it is all just the splashing and the sound design of kind of
that's such a good point.
It feels like you're there on the beach. It feels so real, and
that's such a it's not that scene when we know something bad is probably going to happen. There's no like build up to that until it
comes, and obviously the Lilo and the blood, and it's an incredible.
It just gushes out the water. It's incredible.
It is
that shot though, and obviously the shot, which I think is
the Jaws. I think it's called the Jaws zoom as well,
the Jaws shot,
as the vertigo zoom.
I think Hitchcock had. I was going to say Hitchcock had invented. I remember like seeing it in Vertigo. I'd seen it in Jaws first.
I feel like Jaws almost has become.
Jaws made it
become more famous though.
Because I think if you look at the way Vertigo uses it, it's done as a point of view shot,
isn't it?
And it's really beautifully done. And he does it in the staircase. He does it in the alley at the beginning when he's doing the chase and he's holding onto the drain pipe, but the or side of the building. Sorry, and then but Jaws I think did it. Not from a point of view, rather like someone's vision. This was like, oh, here we go. Here's a dramatic, which normally in a piece of filmmaker would just be a crash zoom, but this isn't a crash zoom. Obviously, we've all dabbled in film. We learned how this was done, but it's so beautifully executed.
It's brilliant. The way that his wife is like massaging him on the shoulders as well, and he's kind of slumped in the chair, and then it's just the composition of the whole shot and the kind of the huts or whatever they are behind him. It's beautifully set for that moment, and it's kind of the but
it was called, basically it's a reverse of the forward zoom and reverse tracking shot, which was also known as a trombone shot. You've obviously mentioned the fact it was in vertigo from height. It was also in Truffaut's like Fahrenheit 451 as well, so like it had a couple of very well known examples in like French and like, well, obviously popular cinema in terms of vertigo as well. But I think certainly for our generation, and even for a lot of people who teach film now, that, as you said, they call it the Jaws shot, and it's just it's such a wonderful shot and so atmospheric. And just before that moment as well, again, that sense of like he's just in a small town, he's got another guy who comes up to him, starts talking to him about stuff, and he's kind of trying to peer over his shoulder and just like
in his little
that again, like the great shot, like where, you know, this guy's talking to him, and we get that. Yeah, the peer over the shot is beautifully done though.
Well, it's another point of view shot, right? Yeah,
but you get the that. I think this is like one of those lines. When I heard it, I was like, oh, this you always hear this quoted, but not as much as certain other lines in this movie. But it's is it that's some bad hat, Harry? And it's like, yeah, I've heard that.
That's been used for a company afterwards. So it was, I swear it was at the end of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something like that.
Oh wow,
that might be where I'm hearing it.
Yeah, that was where it was like.
That's some bad hat, Harry.
But
I was just like,
I think
cool.
Once this boy dies as well, I think
the mum on the beach.
I mean, she like as we said,
I wound up watching this again recently because it's so
it's not dramatic. It's not overplayed, is it? No. It's not like, where's much? She's just like, Alex, and it's just like, oh no.
She's so good in it, considering
she's great.
Exactly, she's not an actor, and the fact that I think she was a teacher.
Ferrero, Mrs. Quinta. Let's give her a full shout out.
And they were saying that she was in real life. She was a teacher, and on set, all these kids, like she would kind of like take them all under her wing and like actually like do lessons like while they were like, waiting around and stuff. So you can see like that kind of like motherly maternal thing come through in her character.
She feels like a very stern mother. You wouldn't mess with her as well.
Well, later when she slaps Brodie, exactly. It's like, definitely.
I just love the way that shot is not overplayed. Like, there's it's the way it's framed as well in the 16:9. They've got all the people kind of off to one side of the screen, and then her just kind of wandering, going, Alex?
And there's the little boy kind of playing on the beach as well, like kind of.
That's
right. Really like sad as well.
And you see the actual remains, I suppose, of the blow up, just wash up on the beach.
Wash up on the beach with the blood,
and it's just like, and the poor dog again. The poor dog. You almost get a teaser for what's going to happen. Where he's like, Pippin, like, where are you?
Yeah, that's right.
Almost the version of her doing it. Obviously, slightly less buoyant, I should say. But yeah.
Do you fancy sending us a film to review, or letting us know your thoughts on a film that we have discussed? All of your comments will be read out in our end of season leaderboard episode. Email us on offradarpod@gmail.com, tweet us at offradarpodcast, message us on Facebook. All links and info in the description down below.
Do it! Do it!
But yeah, soon after this, we meet Robert Shaw for the first time.
We get one of the best character introductions of all time, I would say.
The nails on the chalkboard.
Nails on a blackboard, like a proper old school blackboard. And I mean, first up, I haven't seen this in a while, but I forgot like his accent was quite like messed
like
up.
A weird kind of accent.
Yeah, it's kind of like an Irishy sort of American-y, like British.
It feels like Irish immigrant American kind of.
Yeah, I was just thinking that like Pennsylvania or wherever a lot of the Irish sort of went to.
Because for those who don't know Robert Shaw, like obviously, or maybe not obviously, before that, you know, if you listen to him in real life, he's a proper old school British. He was very good looking, like. Thespian, I guess you would call him.
That's great, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, you know, like most people would associate him with this film and his look and character and how kind of like he's, you know, messy and drunk, but actually in like before this film, it's not how you would associate him. But
well, I mean, like famously, I mean, like I know this about his. I wouldn't say profess to know all of his work, but I know him as an actor, kind of like. You know, kind of as you know, the legends of certain actors like Orson Welles and Marlon Brando, stuff like that. Robert Shaw he liked a bit of a tipple. I think it's fair to say he was quite the drinker, and he was professional, but also he could be a bit of a terror, I think, in the real world kind of thing.
I think there was a lot of people from that era that was very similar, even like the likes of like Alec Guinness and co.
Peter Cook, Dudley Moore, they all fucking loved it.
But like Robert Shaw especially, like he was kind of known, as you said, as being that classic British actor. Had played, I think, Henry the Eighth, got nominated for an Academy Award for that.
Wow.
I remember him, I most remember him from being in From Russia with Love.
Was he in From Russia with Love?
Yeah, one of the very early Bond films. He plays Donald Grant, which, if you've ever read the Fleming kind of novel of this, is just this incredible, it's almost like a werewolf type character, this guy that sort of comes alive at night and murders people. When he's first in the film, he's getting this massage and he's got rippling muscles and has this big fight with Connery on the train. And then a couple of years before this as well, he was in The Sting with Robert Redford as well, and Paul Newman, and played a really memorable role in that. And I think when they were sort of considering casting him for this film, he was a bit of a tax exile, so could only stay in America for a certain amount of time.
Oh, wow.
And again, it kind of shows his like dodgy dealings and all the things that he was up to. And there's certainly, I'll probably cover this more in the trivia later on, there's a lot of, as you mentioned, like drinking stories related to this film, falling out with other castmates, all that kind of stuff that could have made him quite challenging. But being such a classically trained actor and in such a, he makes it such a memorable role because of how he performs it, and there's bits that he ad-libs as well. It doesn't,
it's one of those, like I've said before on the podcast, like it's when an actor doesn't feel like he's performing, it just feels like that's who he is.
Yes.
Like you can watch a lot of films, and don't get me wrong, we all get immersed in film and we forget that we're watching, like, you know, this, like Tom Hanks as this or Samuel L. Jackson as that character. With this, if you didn't see Robert Shaw in any other film, you would think this is who he is. That's my point.
Definitely.
It's like, oh, this is who this guy is.
I think, for me, like that, this was my introduction to him, obviously. So yeah, I've always just seen him as this. But like when you look at the image of him in Russia, from Russia with Love, he looks like a different person. Like it's like you're forgiven.
It's more like Dolph Lundgren from like Rocky IV.
It's like blonde and like trim, and it's an incredible like transformation. But I think also the brilliant thing is, obviously, with these three characters, we obviously meet Hooper fairly soon after this as well, when we get, you know, the kind of call out for the bounty, as it were, as I said in the synopsis. And Hooper is played by Richard Dreyfuss, so he's very by the book. He's quick talking. He's quite charming, but he's got this real love and fascination of the sea and sharks. Where
there's an air of know-it-allness about his
definitely
character. Like Hooper's
he's an academic, you can certainly tell that.
Like, and don't get me wrong, he's I would say 9 times out of 10, or probably 9.9 times out of 10, he's right in what he says. But there's, I don't want to say arrogance, but there's an air of like, he at times in certain scenes, and rightly so in certain scenes, it feels like he's talking down to people. But there's
they're all going to die on the boat when those guys are going out.
Can we just point out like how funny this movie is at times as well? I forgot how funny this movie was at times. There were moments where I was just like, I laughed out loud, and I was just like, oh. I always, I think, like Smith said at the beginning, that first scene is so iconic that you think, oh, that's the theme of the movie. And it's like, no, there are, like, as Nige said, with like the small town kind of mindset, there's a lot of comedy in that. Like Nige said, when people are talking about their problems and stuff, even that's played for giggles, isn't it? It's like,
it's never played for like, oh, this is the period where we pause the film so you could have a hearty laugh.
Exactly.
It's just a little,
it's part of it.
Authentic,
Yeah, definitely. But you know the scene, I think, like, I always remember the scene where they cut the tiger shark open. I feel like I don't know, it looks so real. And obviously at this point in the film we haven't seen a single shark. You know, it's all been, and we don't see a shark until, you know, the three of them go out on the boat. So a good like hour into the film. But
it's when he's throwing the chum, isn't it?
Yeah, that's when.
That's the first look. But
again, another very, very classic shot.
But yeah, the tiger shark scene's great because it's like that kind of intrigue of like, oh, what's in there? And it's again, I don't know if that's a real tiger shark or what,
bizarre because there's like license plate in it. He's like,
tin can.
This must have driven up from here,
isn't it? You know,
So that's a great. That's both a great gag and also like a wonderful bit of exploration and education for the audience, where it's like
sharks eat anything.
But it's
true.
like here's a license plate. He's basically from out of town, and you're like, okay, so this. Yeah, I thought that was great. It's like, this isn't, and also like as an audience member, even then at that point, you're still kind of unsure. It's like, well, there's still so much of the film to go. They surely haven't captured the baddie of this movie. And, and like we say, Richard Dreyfuss as Hooper pretty much says straight away, no, you haven't. They have a bit of an altercation with the mayor. And then there's one scene I really love where it's like at night, and it's Brodie and his wife sitting around the dinner table, and Hooper knocks on the door with a bottle of wine, just turns up. They sit down, he's like, how was your day? And they have a little laugh, and it's like, oh, I like the chemistry building here between these two. Like, these two haven't met up until now, and yet they're kind of becoming friends in this quest to figure out what's going on. And like, they feel like the only two on the island that actually understand what's going on, if that makes sense.
Just before this as well, I think it was just before this, I think it's one of the sweetest scenes in the film is, I think I mentioned it actually, where Brodie is sitting with his son, and we see that softer side of Brodie where the son does the copying. He like starts copying.
That's just before that.
He like puts his hand to his face and then he does it back, and again, like Brodie is that audience member for you. He is that one that you probably side with most out of the three, the one that you can't have get killed in this film. And that's why, because Spielberg and the writer, to be fair, give you that depth of character without actually doing a lot of backstory, and pretty much no backstory with the other two that eventually go out to sea with him.
Well, it's interesting, his wife as well, like Lorraine Gary, she does quite a lot with not that much.
Yeah.
She's not on the screen that often.
It's true.
Like, there's that great scene when he's kind of speaking to her about, the kids being in the water, and she looks in the book and sees the shark biting through the boat. And like,
get out of the boat now!
Just those little bits. And again, like, she's almost like not necessarily his conscience, but is always there kind of on his side, like they're supporting him. And I think she's an important part, but it's really interesting kind of going back and watching this film after quite a few years away, how it really is a film that's split. You've kind of got the opening bit, which sets the kind of scene, like the island, the attacks, and then you've got obviously when they go out on the boat. And not that long ago, actually, I got someone bought me like Jaws, the board game, and it's actually a two-sided board. The first half is the shark attacking people, and you're attaching like barrels to him or something like that, and then you flip it over. You're on the orca, you're on the boat, and the shark's attacking the boat. And I thought, they've really kind of understood how this film is broken down. So.
Where Dreyfuss and Brodie go out to sea.
This is the one.
At night, and they find this, damaged fisherman's boat. But the jump scare in this moment where he's...
I knew it was coming.
I know, you kind of you know it is coming.
But I still jumped.
But basically, Dreyfuss sees a head underwater.
I knew it was coming, and I still jumped. I knew it was coming. Like, the head goes, but I still jumped because it's done so well.
The music screech and the bloke's head.
The screech. God.
It's funny, it actually wasn't scripted at all, like the head coming out. It was only after Steven Spielberg later kind of said that he got greedy after he saw, basically, they screened it like to a preview audience. And when the shark jumps out behind Brodie's head, what we just mentioned a moment ago, like the first time you see Jaws, They reacted with such a big scare. He was like, I just want one more scare. So he put that in, and then he realised, like, it's Ben Gardner's boat and his head pops out. After he put that back in, the reaction to the second bit when the shark came was so much less because people had become like guarded to it because they're like, oh my God, such a big scare. And then they're basically on edge like, oh, there's going to be another scare. And it kind of taught him a lesson that he put into films up beyond that point, that a movie can really only have one major scare moment just because people are just going to be on guard. So yeah, it was really interesting because, I think when I was younger, I obviously watched it when I was a kid, and either it was cut and I never saw it until I got to a certain age, and then when I finally got on like VHS or whatever, uncut version, I saw that and I was like, kind of blew my mind that was in the film.
I think, it's true. And I think what's brilliant is, shortly after we get the scene where they go back in the water because the beach is open, they've killed the shark and whatever. And I always remember watching this like 10 years later on VHS around a friend's house. It wasn't this actually, we were watching something else, but this scene was used as the widescreen advert for like VHS tapes, like, oh, you can now do widescreen. And this scene where they're kind of panning around the scene, you see the family that go back in, and it's like the big mother going, and her face looks terrified, but the mayor's kind of said to her, go back in the water.
Get in the water,
But this scene is so good because, again, it's all that anticipation and stuff, and we get the fins. But what is so brilliant about it is, the fact that this time, actually, what we're doing is playing with the audience, and it's not shark, it's a hoax, this part. But, if he's not there and his son is over in the pond...
Go play over there,
go play in the safe pond, then... Yeah, but it's so well done, and obviously in the pond the guy falls in, and I think we get a first glimpse at this point of the shark, very small glimpse, but we get a
very brief, if I remember
glimpse
rightly,
of the shark because we get the leg, don't we, that falls down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, oh god,
Sort of sees it, and it's just like, yep, fine, I'm going to be PTSD for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Did you know you can now subscribe to Off Radar It's a Movie podcast on YouTube? You can watch exclusive trailers and listen to brand new full episodes. All links and info in the description down below.
Somebody stop me!
They go out and you get the up-tempo music, and then Quint does a thing where he's he's throwing the chum in the water and he's fishing, and he has what I like about Quint's setup is he's on the boat and he's got a little footstool and he attaches himself to the almost to the boat kind of thing. So when he gets a pull, they go off it's really well done. It's like, oh wow, it's almost like
it's quite clever, the kind of geography or the kind of science behind that, isn't it?
The science behind exactly
but
the geography
science, one of those
science.
Two. But
the trigonometry.
I think the brilliant thing about this second part of the film, which is a good 50 minutes of the three of them.
I forgot how long it was. A
long time, but actually, scene-wise, a lot of this is about the chemistry between the three. So the fact that Hooper and Quint are constantly, rubbing heads and stuff, and I think Nige said, I think they said in the documentary, they had footage of both of them talking about their relationship, from back in the day, and saying how the offset they would not get on, and I think it was half intentional from Spielberg for them to kind of not get on, so that when they actually were performing together, you can tell that they kind of but it becomes almost like this kind of respect and banter that becomes between them.
Banter, almost like a rivalry, but one that's kind of you can tell Quint is this city slicker, kind of know it all, and
but the same.
They're from two different worlds basically, aren't they? It's like Hooper's this old man who just old seafaring pirate guy. So they come at this problem from two. Well, when you add Brodie into it, you got three guys coming at this situation, this problem, three different ways, and I think that's the really interesting. You've got the old school Quint. You've got Hooper, who is very matter of fact, and you've got Brodie, who's the everyman, trying to figure out what's the real thing we can do here. But also
I think Hooper's more with the modern technology because he's thinking about we could use radar, this kind of thing, watch the waves and sort of all that stuff. And like you say, it's almost for Quint, it's the comparison with Moby Dick, isn't it? It's the idea of we're chasing this white whale, we're seafaring, all this kind of stuff, all the traditions that have been passed down for years.
You get the feeling as well, not to jump too far ahead, but when Quint meets his demise, it's sort of I can imagine that's probably the way he would have wanted to go to some
I think
degree.
there is part of that, isn't there? Yeah, definitely. He was always going to be the one that, if he was going to go somehow, then it would be to Jaws, knowing that
but we get during one of the kind of surprisingly how early this pops up, which is, again, we talked about how long this adventure is. I'm going to call it adventure and a quest, to get the shark. It is astonishing. Like, we get this shot so early, which is
we finally see Jaws, don't we? Or the shark.
Yeah, he's putting the chum out.
And that's a crazy thing. They never call him Jaws.
No, he's not called Jaws. The film is Jaws. that's the funny thing.
But you can't call it the shark. You just call it Jaws. So
the name of the shark.
Here we go.
In the film was actually Bruce.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
because it was named after Steven Spielberg's lawyer.
But that was not in the film though. That was like behind.
No, they don't call it.
But at least that's what they referred it to. Rather than calling it the shark, they were like, "What are we going to do with Bruce today?" So.
But again, like Nige talked about the jump scare, and that shot is so iconic. Where you've got Brodie like talking to Quint, and he's like facing the camera, like so. We're looking over like at Brodie, but over behind him, and it's so funny when you look at that shot, like. We've seen the film before, so we know what's coming. There's this huge space of like
nothing.
A third of the screen is just blank. But it's brilliant because at the same time, you really don't expect it because you're so engaged with Brodie moaning, just like blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing.
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
But the best thing is his reaction, right? With the
shot,
the shot,
kind of
reaction.
The look up, the shot of his reaction, which is,
and it's the way it's shot. You've got like the shot of the ship, and just him kind of whipping into shot, like that.
Which is so well.
And
done.
then he walks backwards, like Quint. You see Quint in the foreground, like looking at something inside the boat. And then,
but the fact that neither of them see it as well is genius, right? Cause,
is that when he says you're going to need a bigger boat?
It comes very shortly after.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
And then he says it again. So I always thought it was we're going to need a bigger boat, but he does say that.
I think he just repeats it, I swear. But it was an ad-lib as well. Like, it wasn't scripted. It was just something Roy Scheider said. So...
I mean, that line, we've talked about famous lines in films before. That is one of the big, the most.
Well, it's been used on everything. Like, people have paid. I'm sure if you look up on YouTube or just the internet, you'll find lists of that quote where it's been reused or repurposed or paid homage to it. All this stuff. It's going to be probably one of the most quoted lines in movie history.
I'm sure in like the AFI, American Film Institute, greatest lines in movie history, it's going to be in like the top 5 or top 10 or something like
that. Because again, it's a comedy line when you think about it. Because he's basically he's saying something absurd in relation to something like real. It's just like, oh yeah, you're gonna need a bigger boat, but we don't have one. I love it. I just love the kind of. Yeah, the meaning behind it.
And the kind of obvious irony that comes with it. Because they definitely needed a bigger boat. But then we get, obviously with the barrels, I love the fact that when they actually start hunting the shark, that tension of when, he gets a barrel on the shark to basically like track it almost. It's so well done because, again, so one of the things I noticed, which I didn't really clock before, is in the first half of the film, every shot is a point of view shot from under the sea. In the second half of the film, you don't get any of that now.
It's the shark.
It's all from their point of view, though. You don't get another shot from POV shot from Jaws or from the shark. So you get it from, Brodie or whatever. And I think that's brilliant how you then switch to that. Because we're now going, oh, where the fuck is this shark? And that is part of the kind of mystery of it, isn't it? But
I mean, it was partly done out of necessity in the fact that Bruce the shark was so unwieldy and had so many issues with trying to use him. But you're absolutely right in the sense of the last thing you want to do is kind of give the game away early in the film and show the monster, show the beast, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's
so many movies have done that since, haven't they? Like, and I'm not talking like the greatest of modern movies, but what was the Cloverfield, where they barely showed the monster. You saw, and it was really. I thought that I really enjoyed that film, but I remember seeing it's really well done. How you just see glimpses of the monster. Even something as recent, I say recent, maybe 10 years ago, as like the American Godzilla remake. You barely see him in the first like hour and 15 minutes of the movie. And in fairness, I really wanted to see Godzilla, but you get glimpses, and then you finally see him.
You get it with all signs, and it's yeah.
Or Barbarian that we reviewed recently,
Of
like
course.
the first half of the film. It's
if you see that too early, but yeah, Jaws is definitely one of those first films to kind of do that, and like you say, partly due to necessity, because I think this is very well documented that they basically the shark was a nightmare and it was breaking, and they went through so many, and it was the whole thing was going days and days over budget, and they were nearly shut down. I think that's one of the most common bits of kind of knowledge around the film. But yeah,
there's another bit of trivia, like, so after you're going to need a bigger boat, you see that great aerial shot of Jaws. I'm calling him Jaws now.
It's fine. Let's call him Jaws.
I think people will understand.
Yeah.
Okay, him swimming under the boat, and it's so you see the size of this thing. You're like, oh my god! And then there's again another comedy scene. Like as they're going, like, right, what are we doing? They're like firing that, like they're trying to figure out, like, we've got to get the barrels and do all this. At the same time, Quint is on the CB. Like, because Brodie's wife's like calling, and he's like, literally, as Brodie and Hooper are outside trying to, get control of Jaws and trying to get everything in place. Like, there's all the music kicking off, like this seafaring music, like all this, and you've got Quint on the CB going, "We ain't seen nothing yet. Be home for dinner. Over and out." It's just like it just really. But again, and then that leads to another shot that I just found so funny, where you see like Brodie's trying to step back into the boat, and then you see Brodie walking towards the camera, and then this giant harpoon just comes into frame, where it's Quint with his giant harpoon. I was like, it's so like I say, even in these tense moments, there's those, like any decent film, like I've talked before about, like Ghostbusters, horror comedy. You always need, obviously Ghostbusters relies a lot on comedy because you've got these comedic actors, but that always makes films so much better when there's that payoff. Like you can have that really tense moment and then that release, which is the laughter. So you get these really crazy shots of Jaws and then these really comedic moments which kind of lighten the mood, but it doesn't make you feel like it just makes it like a really lovely movie experience, I think.
Well, it's interesting as well because obviously they go to the emotional depth later on where where the story about the USS Indianapolis which Quint tells them both, and but it is still kind of like you were just saying there, a release from the tension, because it's like they're relaxing. It's like the shark's still out there, but it's nighttime. It's almost like, no, this is the time when we're just going to have a few drinks and have a chat. And he tells this really horrific story, kind of similar to like we were talking about Gremlins a while back when we did that.
Yes,
and the story that Phoebe Cates' character tells where her dad's the Santa Claus. And yeah, it's such a huge, like, important scene based on something that really happened.
Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief. He was coming back from the island of Tinian to Leyte, just delivered the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb. 1,100 men went into the water. The vessel went down in 12 minutes.
For me, like this moment is one of my favourite scenes in the whole film, where they get drunk and do the show me the way to go.
Oh, yeah.
Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go.
They're smashed, and I think what I love about
they're bonding.
Yeah, exactly, is the three of them has been kind of separate. I know you said there's almost like this kind of friendship between Brodie and Thingy, but it still feels like they're
Hooper,
quite separate kind of beings. So the fact that all three of them, and especially between Quint and Hooper, I think, they really let their guards down in this moment.
It's a tight space, isn't it? Like, genuine. Where else is there to go? So yeah, it is genuine.
The show me the way to get home is so brilliant, because obviously you've got this and doing that, but the fact that you then see the kind of the build up of the shark like smashing on the boat, but they're unaware of it because they're having so much fun. It's like they're thrust back into reality.
You can always be sticking.
Start the engines.
It comes hot off the heels of Quint's speech as well. He gives that really, like, it's an amazing... Again, it's one of those things where you know, as I said earlier, it's you just forget that this is a guy whose memorized lines isn't really this person he's acting, because it's just like, oh, this is someone they filmed in real life, you know, because his speech is, it's like it's mostly all one shot, and you're just like, bloody hell, it's incredible. And
he got really drunk doing this, didn't he? Like in real
well,
life.
Yes and no. So when it came to
he got drunk doing the first take.
Yeah, he tried to do it whilst intoxicated.
Come back and do it again.
Yeah, because nothing could be used. So a remorseful Shaw basically called up Spielberg later that night and was like, can I just please have another try? And did it in one take afterwards. And like you said, it is one take that he managed to do the whole thing in. But yeah, we've kind of touched upon the idea that Shaw drank a lot. He was bullied, like Richard Dreyfuss, quite a lot as well. Like even Roy Scheider, who's the kind of person that rarely says a bad word about anyone, says he was a perfect gentleman when he was sober, but all he needed was one drink. He just turned into a competitive son of a bitch. And at one point as well, Shaw was like having a drink between takes and was a bit like, oh, I wish I could quit drinking. And Dreyfuss just grabbed his glass full of drink and just threw it in the ocean, was like, there you go, kind of thing. And yeah, there was just a lot of issues between them both.
I remember hearing the story about Dreyfuss, who was like, he was pretty young, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think the thing with him is he turned up, and I don't know if he'd won some awards or got some rave reviews for some theatre stuff, and I remember like hearing that he kind of turned up with a bit cocksure, sort of like, hey man, and kind of you got old school Robert Shaw going like, who's this motherfucker, you know, that kind of attitude. So I think from what I understand, this is I heard about years ago, is that Dreyfuss kind of rubbed a few people up the wrong way with his maybe not necessarily enthusiasm, but kind of like assuredness. Like he didn't. It's the best way to put it. It's like, you know, every
Dreyfuss has rubbed many people up. Like he basically became like vilified in Hollywood. There was a long time where he didn't make films because nobody really got on with him. Because he did like Always with Steven Spielberg after this. He'd obviously done films. He did what was the one that he did with George Lucas that basically got him cast for this? He did American Graffiti, wasn't it?
He's in that.
Yeah, then he did obviously. He was like
later, but yeah,
exactly. But yeah. There's a reason why when it got to like the 90s, he just wasn't in films anymore. Wow. So, but I mean, he said about working with Robert Shaw as well, this idea that obviously they kind of hated each other. There was like pranks that Shaw would put on him. He sprayed him with like a fire hose, and Dreyfuss basically told him to go fuck himself. But eventually they kind of made up their differences, and Dreyfuss was sort of reportedly said that he was the largest personality I ever met on this earth, not just in film, but ever anywhere. Wow. And you kind of touched upon the idea that Dreyfuss had come in and been like a theatre actor and was quite like cocksure of himself.
Yeah.
And Shaw basically said to Dreyfuss, like, I played Claudius to your Hamlet, you played the fool to my Lear, kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
But Dreyfuss was flattered and said he'd do it, but only after 10 years, so he could actually hone his craft and be as good an actor as Shaw, because he knew how brilliant Shaw was. Unfortunately, Shaw died only a few years after this film, so they never got the chance to do it. But from being on those extremes that you see in the film, like the way those characters, you can tell there's that bitterness and that dislike, but there's also that respect. It comes from a place, but there's respect, and by the end of the film and the end of like them working together, they kind of figured it out. And it just goes to show that even characters that are large and clash and alpha males and stuff like that, there can still be that common bond, and people can find that way to kind of work together and communicate and do amazing stuff together.
It's just like us three. It's
yeah.
Obviously we get a number of brilliant scenes. So I guess Jaws like towing the boat always makes me smile. The fact that, you know, like the kind of like
it's the power, the power of this creature,
of this shark towing the boat.
They show it earlier. We didn't touch upon it, but those like two drunks that try and catch him with like a chain or whatever it's getting pulled off the dock. Very early. They show the power of the shark, and it really establishes that this is a
beast,
like a very unique, almost like a mutant shark. It's so big. So
also that power in the cage scene, you know, where Dreyfuss is down. And you see the power of it, like getting smashed up, and him obviously like managing to kind of escape. escape. But yeah, like that, it's like these shark cages, it's just been obliterated. I mean, why? You know, as the audience, when he's going down there, you're like, no, this is not going to end well. But
before that, with the, when they're attaching the barrels to him, like the harpoon thing, there's one, again, it's slightly comedic, but also it's a wonderful bit of like comedy and yet terrifying, where Quint says, he can't go under, not with 3 barrels attached to him, and then literally you get a wide shot with the orca in the distance, and the barrels just go bloop under the water, and you're like, and like you can almost see Quint like a loss for words, and I think that's the beauty of it. Like his character arc is really interesting, because it's not really, I don't think it's intended to be a big character arc, but even he is like just shocked at the power of we talked about the power of the shark. I think he's sort of like, this is the greatest thing I've ever come up against. It's the white whale. It's
it's also the intelligence of it, right? Because the fact that it's it's out thinking them now. Like the fact when it goes under the boat and one of them is like
under the boat.
It's gone under the boat. It's like as if it's a surprise that it's figured out that if it goes under, it can kind of like then go and tow it and take it. But like I said in the synopsis, who is kind of hunting who? Because it does seem like this shark kind of knows more than you think. But obviously, we've got to talk about one of the scenes of the film, which is obviously the mountain of the boat where the shark comes up and basically, with Quint's death. It's so brutal, and you kind of...
It's his screaming.
It's the sound of the bite, the crunch.
The sound.
And the way his legs kind of almost, like are kind of sliding down the boat and put onto the shark's jaws.
You think he's... I'm going to get out of it. Like, he's got his feet in a perfect position.
Like that desperation as he's trying to kick away as well, because that's the only time. Yeah, it's the only time you
see that
like
more
him,
vulnerability,
the vulnerability of him. Yeah, because up until that point he's like this grizzled veteran, and now he's like,
I've been in the ocean with sharks, and
and this time it's like
he came out.
Yeah, exactly. And now he's like, and it bites into him, and he's just that great close up of him with all the blood in his mouth, like.
It's so good.
But again, you just feel like, it sounds weird, it's like, that's probably how he wanted to go.
The fact that they use in this scene, this is like a mechanical shark thing.
They actually use.
So it's actually like really dangerous, him acting in this scene. It's not just like like a soft thing. It's like if he gets like kind of grappled in the wrong way, because there's people like like animatronically like doing.
Well, isn't there a shot where it's him being dragged underwater, like when he's kind of lost consciousness? You just see him like go under the water.
Yeah, so he still gets sucked in.
So that's like, that's that's still stunt work, and it looks like it's him, unless it's a really good bit of stunt makeup.
There's one last scene, which is one of the again, I keep saying iconic. Maybe this whole film is iconic, but obviously the boat sinking and Brodie on the boat with the thingy.
Yeah, because Hooper's gone at this point.
Hooper's gone.
Well,
with
as the
cage.
audience, you think he might be dead, right?
Yeah.
You don't know, and obviously Quint's gone, so it's just Brodie, and the music at its best with that crescendo, and obviously the smile, you son of a.
Smile, you son of a.
But the explosion as well of this.
It's a really good explosion.
Really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, and with even just like the realism of the goals and whatever coming down, which
I loved that.
Kind of come quite quickly.
No, but that's such a great idea to have like the goals it just makes that scene feel so real.
Well,
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the line is from Jaws 2? So obviously Schmauer, son of a.
Yeah. No.
Do you know what the one from?
Go on.
Oh, can we make it up? Can we guess?
Yeah, go for it.
Stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
Ain't gonna be no rematch.
Ain't gonna be no rematch. It's like open wide, say ah.
Oh God.
Because they kill it in the spoiler exactly the same way, don't they? In Jaws 2.
If I remember
it's
right.
with the electric.
It bites
thing.
on the electric thing.
Trivia, Nige.
There's so much. I'm sorry, I sprinkled so much into this, but there is just so much of this film, and so much of it is absolutely brilliant as well. So we kind of touched upon the score and John Williams being so amazing, and this is ridiculous in itself. He's been nominated for 54 Academy Awards, second
mental,
only behind
isn't it?
Walt Disney's 59.
Wow.
He's just had so many nominations for so many films. He's only actually won 5 for Fiddler on the Roof, Jaws, Star Wars, E.T. and Schindler's List. Actually, when he got nominated for Jaws, he was composing the orchestra for the Academy Awards. So when he won, he actually had to run up onto the podium, and then come back and continue doing the composing for the actual orchestra that was there. So that's amazing.
Great. That might be my favourite piece of trivia. I love that. That's great.
There's still a bunch more to go. Did you know Spielberg wasn't actually the original director for Jaws? They had actually got a guy called Dick Richards who directed a couple of like Philip Marlowe, Raymond Chandler films, but then got fired after meeting with the producers and studio executives because his opening shot, he'd have been like, okay, we're going to show the town, the water, and then we're going to see this whale that will come out of the water. And they were like, fucking hell, they don't even know that it's a shark and not a whale. And they thought, we can't work with someone that can't tell the difference. So that's why they obviously binned him off and eventually ended up with Spielberg. Yeah. So we've mentioned Bruce quite a bit, the animatronic shark. During pre-production, he brought some of his friends, including Martin Scorsese and George Lucas, along to the effects shop to see this 25-foot shark. And Lucas said to him at the time, like, if you get half of this on film, you're going to have one of the biggest hits of all time, and how right he was proven. And Lucas actually stuck his head in the shark's mouth to see how it worked. And as a joke, Millis and Spielberg, another director, Millis, who was there, they snuck to the controls and made it like the jaws clamped shut on Lucas's head.
Oh, wow.
But because of the technical difficulties that the shark would obviously encounter quite a lot later on as well, it malfunctioned. And he got stuck in the mouth of the shark for quite a long time. They finally managed to free him and like ran out the shop, and they were like out the workshop where it was, and they were a bit like, we knew we'd broken something quite expensive, and lo and behold, it sort of kept happening during the film. So, with the filming, I should say. And then this film was one of the classic films of, it was a disaster for so many things, but yet the final result was brilliant. I think you could talk about Back to the Future being the same. The fact that Eric Stoltz was cast and fired after and shot a bunch of it. And like Richard Dreyfuss later kind of said, we started filming without a script, without a cast, and without a shark. And it wasn't until 9 days before filming, Quint and Hooper hadn't been cast for this film. That shows how late they left it. And in terms of like the shark being a disaster, also filming out in the sea being a disaster, there was one bit where the actual boat that they were filming on started to sink. There was an accident, and Spielberg was like on his bullhorn, like shouting out to the actors, somebody save the actors. And then this guy called John R. Carter, who was actually the sound guy, was like, fuck the actors, save the sound department.
Yeah. There's actually footage of this in the documentary.
Oh, really?
Which is incredible, like of the boat sinking, and it's mental.
I'll have to check that out, man.
Well, this is the thing. The film camera like sunk, and they thought we had lost all the film in the water. But because the developing solution was saline, they actually get it to a New York film lab and actually managed to save a bunch of the stuff. So,
wow.
But yeah, just again, it must have been absolutely chaotic. So, and then we spoke about how locals were cast in the film. Like we spoke about Mrs. Kinter not being an actual actor. When she slapped Roy Schneider, he said it was like the most painful of his entire career because she was just walloping every single time. And it became so cult that people would go up to this woman when they would see her and ask, can you please like slap me in the face? So she spent a lot of her post-Jaws career slapping fans in the face, but then decided not to do it. And many years later, actually, Lee Ferrero, who played Mrs. Kinter, she walked into a seafood restaurant and noticed that it had an Alex Kinter sandwich, obviously named after her son in the film that got eaten. And she commented in there, like she said, I played his mother many years ago. And lo and behold, the restaurant owner came out, Jeffrey Voorhees, who played Alex in the film, who ran the restaurant and ran out to meet her. They hadn't seen each other since they originally shot the film.
Oh, how strange.
Years and years before. So it's pretty incredible, that.
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
There you go. Nige's trivia. I think we should find out where we are about this film. Not one of us has laid one bit of criticism of it. So, ratings. Where should we begin?
Well, you recommended it, Smith, so I feel you should probably go first.
Okay, I did recommend it. This is a film I have seen many a time. I have enjoyed it very much every time I've watched it. I think in some ways it gets better every time I watched it. it is, I don't often use this word, but it is one of those, it's a great film. I would go as far as say it's a masterpiece. I think, you know, the music, I think the directing, I think the acting, I think it's pretty faultless in that regard. I think the way it builds character and journey is so effective. I think the way it scares you, like you say, Talk, which I didn't pick up on a lot, but you know, that kind of like funniness that comes, and you smile. You might not necessarily barrel laugh, but it's beautifully done. The kind of family with Brodie and his wife and the kid, it gives that, you know, the audience that kind of backstory that you need to root for the guy, which quite often in, you know, monster horror journey films like this is forgotten or neglected. For me, yeah, this is well up there. I think it's great. I can't not give this a 10 out of 10.
He's gone for a 10.
I have to. I mean, it's a wonderful film, and it's 50 years old and it still holds up, which is a sentiment to how well it is.
It's crazy. 50 years old, this movie.
So,
and it's like, wow. Nige?
Yeah, I guess for this film, you've just kind of touched on it there. Like, it's 50 years old. Has it shown its age? Like, and I would say, I mean, there's a lot about this film where does it lean on its strengths too much, in the sense of like the da-da. It's in the film quite a lot. It keeps sort of harping back to the same thing. Does it get to the point where it's kind of ramming it down your throat a little bit? And even with like the kind of reaction, the sort of the kind of build up before they get on the boat, and then there's quite that long scene. Does the film lag a little bit when they're on the boat for too long? And the answer to all those questions is no. It's
of course it's no, Nige.
It's a perfect film.
I knew that twist was coming. I saw it. He was laying it up. He was laying it up like this.
It is an absolute masterpiece. The fact it is 50 years old, and I think you could show anyone from any generation and they will be sucked into this film, and they will enjoy this film, and they will be scared by this film, and they will have the thrill. I mean, there's a reason why they had the Jaws ride at Universal Studios for as long as they did, because it's still part of the lexicon of movies, of excitement, of just cinema. And like Spielberg has made so many great films over so long, but this one will definitely stand the test of time, and it will be one of the top ones listed in his obituary. It is an absolute, it's just, as Smith's already said, it's a masterpiece, and there's no way I could give it any less than a 10, because it is just,
is this gonna be
it's Jaws. I suppose the only bad things are the fact some of the sequels that came out the back of it are quite ropey, but then it does pull it back, in the sense of you wouldn't have that joke in Back to the Future Part 2 without Jaws.
With
the hologram.
Shark still looks fake. Yeah.
It's the shark still looks fake. I forgot about that line. That's so good. It's so interesting that Nige brought up the sequels there, because I was literally going to say my review is going to be very brief, but I just wanted to touch on the whole, you know, the sequels are, for the most part, well, no, I think they are largely considered garbage, especially the longer they go on.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I love about the sequels, and bear in mind, like, I don't know a lot about them, is they just highlight just how good Jaws is. The first one, it's almost like the sequels present to you. The sequels are sort of like, this is what a shark film could have looked like. Yeah. And I think that sounds weird, but I think it's like Jaws 2, you would think, well, so close. We got Roy Scheider in it. We've got the mayor. We've got these characters in it. Oh, it's crap. It just shows you like how perfect a movie Jaws is. Nige, what are you going to say?
I don't mind Jaws 2. I've got a soft spot for Jaws 2.
Okay, that's fair enough.
But I think 3 and 4 in particular are bad.
3 and 4.
I've got a soft spot for 3 because it's so bad it's good, and 4 because also it's so bad it's good, and it's got his wife comes back, Mrs. Brodie. So
obviously Spielberg stepping away from the first one, from the second one, but yeah,
the temptation must have been strong as well.
It must have been. Why? Anyway, Jaws 2. Carry on.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I would say like. Yeah, I mean, in terms of this film, it is a classic. Like, I just go over the same ground you guys talk about. We haven't criticised the movie. I think once at all. Like, it's perfectly paced, perfectly acted, perfectly written. It's got layers. It's everything. It's filmmaking at its finest. And I said it quite wonderfully. It said, like, it's cinema, and it really is. And like, again, kind of quoting Nige's review from a few minutes ago, is that he's right. Like, when Spielberg passes away, I reckon it will say famed Jaws director Steven Spielberg. I think that'll be the thing, and then it obviously lists all of his other movies.
I was going to say, yeah, there's probably about 10 of them, but yeah.
But Jaws is like, it's a film that transcended cinema. It's everything. It's again, it's one of those movies you watch, and like, I haven't seen Jaws in a goodly while. And you just watch it, and like Nige said, show it to anyone, you're just drawn into it. It's like, my goodness, it is like the perfect movie. I think there's no way you can fault it, because every little happy accident led to what is its perfection, I guess. Like, oh, we can't use the shark as much. Oh, well, I guess we'll have to work around that, and by doing that, you create an even stronger movie. So yeah, it's is this our first one? 310s?
Oh, it's there.
My God!
This is our first 30 on the podcast ever.
Good grief!
Yeah, that's 100 films or so.
100 plus films, and we have finally.
We've come close a few times, but this was we've
done a few 3-9. Yeah, this is it. Wow, I thought it might be, but geez, I was a little bit unsure.
No, if you don't like Jaws, send us your review, because I think that'd be a really interesting thing to read out in like a future episode. It's like Bobby Tubbs thinks,
Bobby Tubbs.
He much prefers Deep Blue Sea. Loves Deep Blue Sea.
He's a fan of Meg 2.
LL Cool J. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Meg 2. not the first one.
There we go.
2.
No, not
Meg
the first
2.
one. Please get in touch. Email us on offradarpod@gmail.com. Tweet us at offradarpodcast. Check us out on YouTube. And let us know another film to watch. What else will we give 2 to 3 10s? What else will we give? Something
Piranha 3D,
lower?
obviously.
It doesn't have to be set at sea.
No.
We need your help. We are looking to grow Off Radar and release more and more high quality content. Please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your pod. And why not share with your friends and loved ones?
Help me help you.